Hello and welcome to a new episode of Nile TV's Newsroom Live. I'm Niveen Ramzi and I'll be presenting tonight's show. Today we have a number of different segments. First we will start with politics, then a closer look at business and finance, and sometimes we have stories about the interesting world of technology and the art. Our final segment we take a look at the sports world. So stay tuned for all that and more, and I'll be back after the break. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Bohra Sultan Mufaddal Saifuddin on Tuesday inspected Sayyida Nafisa Mosque in the heart of Cairo after its renovation. More details in this report.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Bohra Sultan Mufaddal Saifuddin on Tuesday inspected Sayyida Nafisa Mosque in the heart of Cairo after its renovation and addressed the inauguration ceremony for the renovation of the mosque. President el-Sisi also performed prayers in the mosque. He was accompanied by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Endowments Mohammed Mukhtar Goma, and Cairo Governor Khaled Abdel-Ael. At the beginning of the ceremony, the attendees listened to the recitation of verses from the Holy Quran. Bohra Sultan Saifuddin addressed the ceremony thanking President Sisi and expressing his happiness to attend the inauguration of the mosque after its renovation. The Sultan also expressed his appreciation to Egypt, notably the Ministry of Endowments as well as the armed forces for their efforts in renovating and restoring mosques all over the country. Earlier on Monday, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the Sultan of the Indian Bohra sect, Mufaddal Saifuddin, his sons and his representatives in Cairo, Mufaddal Muhammad, in the attendance of Chief of the General Intelligence Agency Abbas Kamel. President Sisi hailed the Sultan being a dear guest visiting Egypt and lauded his and the sect's role in restoring the holy shrines along with other historical mosques in Egypt. The Bohra Sultan meanwhile expressed appreciation for Egypt under the leadership of President Sisi, given its efforts for enhancing tolerance and peaceful coexistence among different religious sects and social categories based on its people's deep understanding of the correct teachings of divine religions. He also praised the comprehensive development witnessed in Egypt in all fields, as well as its active role on regional and international arena in support of issues of preoccupation to the Islamic world. At the end of the meeting, the head of state bestowed upon the Bohra Sultan the Sash of the Nile in appreciation for the latter's activities in Egypt on social, cultural and charitable fronts.
Welcome back, and to shed more light on the significance of this renovation, we're delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Ahmed Badr. He's a tourism expert. Good afternoon. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you and all the audience. Thank you very much.
Sir, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Bohra Sultan Mufaddal Saifuddin inspected on Tuesday Sayyida Nafisa Mosque in the heart of Cairo after its renovation, and he addressed the inauguration ceremony for the renovation of the mosque. How do you see the significance of renovating and upkeeping such important religious monuments here in Egypt?
Well, of course, renovating all monuments in Egypt, whether the religious or non-religious, it's first of all, it's preserving our history, preserving our culture, and preserving our heritage, which is the most important thing of all. Then, of course, comes, if we talk about using the monument, something like Mosque of Sayyida Nafisa, as an attraction for tourism, whether it's domestic tourism or incoming tourism as part of religious tours to Egypt, whether it's Islamic tours or Christian tours or Jewish tours. Definitely it's a great step and add up to our portfolio in tourism in general and to religious tourism in particular to Egypt. We all know Sayyida Nafisa is one of the granddaughters of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and with some other mosques of some other grandsons and granddaughters of Prophet Muhammad in Egypt, like also Sayyidina Zainab, which is one of the most famous, in Mosque of Hussein and many others. They will be a good attraction for visitors from out of Egypt who are interested in such tours and coming to see such attractions and places. Definitely will be a good add to our portfolio with just proper services around them and hotels and ease of access to all these places. Definitely we will have more incoming tourism on them. This is on the tourism part. And again, as I said, it's important as keeping our heritage and our history and showing the greatness and the kindness of Egypt. I will just, Egypt always was a sanctuary and a safe place for people from all over the world. As we see granddaughters and family of Prophet Muhammad, they came for a sanctuary in Egypt. Virgin Mary came with Jesus, peace be upon them, seeking sanctuary and safe place in Egypt. So Egypt always was and will be a safe sanctuary for everybody.
Sure. Well, sir, the Bohra Sultan expressed his appreciation to Egypt and also the Ministry of Endowment as well as the armed forces for their efforts in renovating all mosques around the country. Now, how do you see or assess Egypt as a significant religious tourist destination?
As I said, we have many mosques and religious places as highlights that with proper services and proper marketing and proper media campaign around them, we will be able to make very good use of them. Again, I'm not talking only about Islamic monuments, I'm talking about other religions, Islamic, Christianity, Judaism, and the state, Egypt, the government, in the past, they proved that they are renovating not just the mosque, but also other religious thoughts. Again, keeping our history, keeping our heritage, and also using them for as touristic attractions. And with the help of others, like what's happening with Al-Bahra, it's fine. No, it's at the end, religious places are for everybody. I mean, it's not just like just one will make use of them. I mean, something like what happened with Temple of Abu Simbel when the whole world cooperated to save it from the rising water. So something like this, you know, just
Yes.
so at the end, I see it's very good step, and I really admire this.
Right. Well, sir, President Sisi hailed the Sultan being a dear guest visiting Egypt and lauded his the sect's role in restoring the holy shrines with historical mosques and monuments. How do you see this, sir?
Well, again, cooperating is always a good thing between the country and others. Hello?
Right. Well, go ahead, sir.
No, just, I'm sorry, I thought the line was cut.
No, I can hear you.
No, just, again, it's a very good step, cooperating with either other countries or other corporations or any sort of cooperation. Always cooperating is a good thing, and again, at the end, as it's serving the goal of renovating and updating our portfolio, it's fine. It's a good thing, and the whole world is doing this. So we are still
Right.
part of the world.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Badr, tourism expert. Many thanks for your insight. And viewers, now we go to a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, and moving forward with our program, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Tuesday. On Tuesday, Serbia's Deputy Prime Minister and Defense Minister Miloš Vučević. The meeting was attended by Minister of Defense General Mohammad Zaki. Presidential spokesperson Ahmed Fahmi said that President el-Sisi conveyed his regards to Serbian President Aleksandar Vučević, stressing Cairo's appreciation of historical ties between the two countries. He also said Cairo is keen to cement bilateral cooperation with Serbia on all domains, including the defense field, and to activate partnership in accordance with the two countries' capabilities. For his part, Deputy Prime Minister, who is also Serbia's Defense Minister, conveyed the regards from the Serbian President. He said the Serbian President appreciates strong ties with Cairo and the role of the Egyptian diplomacy on the regional and international stages under President el-Sisi. He said Cairo plays a role in countering terrorism and achieving stability, security and development in the region. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received a phone call from Kenya's President William Ruto. The phone call also tackled means of enhancing bilateral ties between Egypt and Kenya, as well as exchanging points of views over a number of African regional and international issues of mutual concern, including the crisis in Sudan and the developments in the Nile Basin. They also tackled means of boosting bilateral ties and coordinating to strengthen joint African action to achieve sustainable development. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmi said that both presidents tackled the wide horizon of developing the distinguished Egyptian-Kenyan bilateral ties and means of boosting bilateral cooperation. Fahmi added that both African leaders agreed on intensifying coordination and cooperation between the two brotherly nations to boost the joint African action in a way that would achieve sustainable development for the countries and peoples of the continent and enhance the efforts exerted to achieve continental integration on all levels. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry co-chaired his Tunisian counterpart and Nabil Ammar the meetings of the 15th round of the consultation and committee between Egypt and Tunisia. Delegations from the two countries attended the meeting, which focused on bilateral relations, in addition to several regional and international files of mutual concern. The two ministers hailed the strong progress in bilateral relations in the recent years. Both sides also stressed the importance of continuing coordination and cooperation regarding all files of mutual concern in order to develop these relations to the strategic level. The talks also touched on high-level meetings that will be held between concerned bodies from both countries during the upcoming period. These bodies include the Higher Egyptian-Tunisian Joint Committee presided by the Prime Minister of both countries and the Egyptian-Tunisian Trained Joint Committee. During his visit, Shoukry will also convey an oral message from President Sisi to the Tunisian President Kais Saied on boosting cooperation relations between the two countries. Welcome back, and to shed more light on the significance of Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry's visit to Tunisia, we're delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Good evening, Mr. Ambassador.
Good evening. How are you?
How are you, sir? Ambassador Bayoumi, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry co-chaired with his Tunisian counterpart Nabil Ammar the meetings of the 15th round of the consultation committee between Egypt and Tunisia. Would you tell us more about the significance of this meeting and what were the most important topics that topped the agenda of the meeting?
Yes, as you well know, we are managing our relations with the Arab world in different dimensions. The global dimension, where we are discussing all these matters within the umbrella of the Arab League, 22 countries. Now we have subcontinental regional groups, such as the Mediterranean group. It's coming from Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, and Egypt, and Syria and Lebanon. We have another consultation on the bilateral level, such as the one between Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq. Now it is between Egypt, Tunisia, and other Maghreb countries. Mm-hmm. But this is totally the bilateral relation committee. And we have a long history with Tunisia since the independence of Tunisia from France, since Habib Bourguiba, Gamal Abdel Nasser, all these leaders, where they had direct relations, and always they were managing the relation for the sake of the two people. Here we are discussing many things in coming into the deep concern of Egypt and Tunisia, such as the Corona problem, such as the war between Russia and Ukraine, and its impact on our region and our countries, such as the problem in Libya, which is a neighbor to us and to Tunisia also. Mm-hmm. The Syrian problem also is annoying us. Sudan also is one very important issue of our concern. So, and then we come to the bilateral direct relations between Egypt and Tunisia, where there are a good community of Egyptians living in Tunisia, helping them for their development. We have a Tunisian community in Egypt, and that's why the relations have this specific shape, deeper than maybe other files with other Arab countries. Mm-hmm. So I think the sky is the limit. I think that they are discussing all these matters, and we hope for the better for the two countries and the two people.
Well, as you mentioned, sir, the two ministers hailed the strong progress in bilateral relations in recent years. Would you please tell us more about the most important fields of cooperation between the two nations and specifically on the strategic level?
First, it comes to the free trade area. We have a free trade area with Tunisia on several dimensions, with the Arab League directly with what we call the Agadir declaration countries, which are Maghreb, Tunisia, and Egypt, and we hope that Algeria will join us there. And then we have the bilateral direct relations, where we can export to Tunisia and import from Tunisia, exempting all this merchandise from any custom duties or any trade barrier. And this, of course, is a way to encourage and widening our trade relation with the brother country of Tunisia.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Many thanks for your insight. And now we go to a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, and moving forward with our program, foreign ministers of Sudan's neighboring countries issued a statement wrapping up their meetings in Chad's capital with the participation of Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. The concluding statement stressed on the importance of integration and coordination between the African Union Initiative's IGAD organization and Sudan's neighboring countries, welcoming the plan of UN humanitarian response. The statement also called on countries and donor organizations to speed up supporting the plan. The statement also asserted on the necessity of establishing humanitarian warehouses in the neighboring countries to transfer quick aid and medical care for the victims. The statement also urged the parties of dispute to facilitate offering humanitarian aid. The ministers also agreed on meeting in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly meetings in September to follow up implementing the decisions. At least 10 Syrian soldiers were killed and others wounded in overnight clashes with the Daesh terrorist group in the country's northern province of Raqqa. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that Daesh terrorist group attacked Syrian army checkpoints around the village of Madan, which they seized briefly before withdrawing by morning. It said at least 6 fighters aligned with the Syrian government were wounded. Syrian state media did not report on the clashes, and Daesh terrorist group did not make a claim of responsibility on its propaganda channels. Daesh terrorist group last week named Abu Hafs al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi as its news leaders for the first time, confirming the death of the former head Abu Hussein al-Husseini al-Qurayshi, whom Turkey said it had killed in April. Niger's junta on Tuesday rejected the latest diplomatic mission from African countries aimed at restoring constitutional order after a July 26 coup, resisting pressure from the United States and the United Nations to come to the negotiating table. Heads of state from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, are preparing for a summit on Thursday to discuss their standoff with the Niger junta, which defied on August 6 deadline to reinstate ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. The possibility of military intervention will be discussed, but ECOWAS has said it is a last resort. The African Union planned to send a joint mission with representatives of the UN and ECOWAS to Niger on Tuesday, but it was denied permission by the junta, which has closed Niger's airspace. An AU spokesperson confirmed that the mission had been denied access, with ECOWAS declined to comment. The junta had already snubbed meetings with the senior U.S. envoy and another ECOWAS delegation that tried to negotiate. Under Bazoum, Niger was relatively successful in containing an insurgency devastating the Sahel region and was an important ally for the West after 2 of its neighbors rejected former colonial power France and turned towards Russia instead. Ukrainian officials said on Tuesday that Russian missiles struck the eastern Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk twice on Monday night. destroying a popular hotel and apartments, killing at least 7 people and wounding scores. Ukrainian Interior Minister said 7 people, including 5 civilians, were killed overnight. Regional officials said that 8 people had died. Witnesses said 2 missiles hit the center of Pokrovsk within 40 minutes of each other. Pictures posted by officials showed that the hotel in the center of the city suffered a direct hit with several floors missing. In his evening address, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russia used the Iskander ballistic missile to attack usual residential buildings in Pokrovsk. Donald Trump's legal team urged the judge overseeing the election conspiracy case against the former president to reject prosecutor proposed protective order concerning evidence in the case, describing it as overly broad. The story.
Donald Trump's lawyers urged a federal judge to reject a protective order sought by prosecutors ahead of the former U.S. president's 2020 election trial, saying it would violate his free speech rights under the Constitution. Prosecutors, in asking for the protective order, argued that Trump could otherwise improperly disclose confidential evidence before trial. The filing late on Monday, U.S. District Judge Tanya Choktan ordered the two sides to meet on Tuesday and agree on 2 possible dates for a hearing to be held no later than Friday on the matter. Trump's attorneys, in a 29-page filing to U.S. District Court in Washington on Monday, did not directly address the assertion of potential witness intimidation. They did acknowledge that some court documents should be shielded from the public, such as materials from the grand jury investigation that led to last week's indictment accusing Trump of orchestrating a plot to overturn his 2020 election loss. In a reply brief, prosecutors said that since they had asked for the protective order, Trump's attorneys had discussed the case on major U.S. television networks. Prosecutors said Trump had a plan to litigate this case in the media. Trump on Thursday pleaded not guilty to federal charges that he conspired to try to overturn his 2020 election loss to Democratic President Joe Biden. It was the 3rd criminal case brought against Trump so far this year. At his arraignment on Thursday, Trump swore to not intimidate witnesses or communicate with them about the case without legal counsel present.
Welcome back, and on this topic and the significance of the current charges against former U.S. President Donald Trump, we're delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Sharif Amir, Professor of International Relations and Geopolitical Analyst. Good evening, Dr. Sharif.
Good evening.
Well, sir, Donald Trump's lawyers urged a federal judge to reject a protective order sought by prosecutors ahead of the former U.S. president's 2020 elections, that's saying it would violate his free speech rights under the Constitution. Well, how do you assess this?
Well, it's a way to ban former President Donald Trump from revealing some issues that would not be suitable to be given to the public. We all know that he has a lot to say, and sometimes they try to portray these statements as a treason and disclosure of secret, highly secret info. But in fact, he has some info which has no relations with the secret classified documents, but it's still harming the deep state, as he calls it, at the Capitol Hill. That's why they're not happy about it, and this is a way of putting a limit to his statements, because they know the more they will try to squeeze him the more they will try to ban him from talking, the more he will give harsh statements, which I think not only the Democrats, but many other politicians would not like to hear and would not like the American public to hear.
Right. Well, Trump on Thursday pleaded not guilty to several charges that he conspired to try to overturn the 2020 elections lost to Democratic President Joe Biden. It was the third criminal case brought against Trump so far this year. Now, can he still run for presidential elections with these ongoing proceedings against him, in your opinion?
It's a race against time. Until now, he's still at the safe side. But the more the time approaches towards the elections, the more they will try to increase the indictment, try to increase the procedures. I think that President Trump is aware of all what's taking place. Former President Trump knows very well that he is in a race against time, that he has to defend himself till there will be the nomination, the official nomination of the Republican Party presidential nomination for the 2024 election. So banning him now, it's still a percentage, it's still a possibility. We don't know really if he's going to stand firm till the end. He counts on the people, more on his lawyers. Let's face it. He counts on the public opinion. That he said it before. He's a martyr. He is being persecuted for telling the truth. And there are many who do not wish to see him back at the White House. So this is, let us say, the gambling that is taking place, that his political opponents are trying to intensify all the attacks judicially, so it could appear legal, to put an end for his ambitions to come back to the White House, and he is pushing back legally and playing the card of the support of the public opinion, which he has, obviously.
Right. Well, prosecutors said that since they had asked for the protective order, now Trump's attorneys had discussed the case on major U.S. television networks. Prosecutors said Trump had a plan to litigate this case in the media. What role, in your opinion, can the media play in such a case?
Well, the mainstream media in the United States, we all know they're anti-Trump. It's known, it's not something new. Even Fox News, which is one of the leading conservative outlets in the media, they are now shifting away from him. We have seen many of the ex-supporters of President Trump. Now they're not supporting him really in that case because the mainstream media, written or television, are against him. That's why he thinks that when he was banned from Facebook, from Twitter, which is called X now, well, he felt that this was something in his is positive for him because it showed the public that he is banned from free speech. In fact, he said this is his free speech. He wants to talk according to the Constitution. He has the right to say what he wants to say, and he's not revealing or disclosing secrets of defense or secrets of the state. So I think that the media is trying to play the other side of the game. One is in the court and the other is in the media. He's playing defense in the court, and the other part is the public opinion in the streets. And maybe he will have a breakthrough in the social media. We never know, but his voice is still heard.
Well, we see that things are moving rapidly concerning these final charges against Trump. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Sharif Amir, Professor of International Relations. Many thanks for your insight. Welcome back. Much of the eastern United States was lashed by intense storms today, Monday, leaving at least 2 people dead, hundreds of thousands without power, and thousands of flights cancelled or delayed. Millions of people were under severe weather alerts, including tornado watches, as rain, strong winds, and hail swept east along nearly the entire eastern seaboard from Alabama to New York. The National Weather Service had predicted a moderate risk of hazardous storms with gusts up to 80 miles per hour. As much of the severe weather danger subsided into the late evening, some areas faced flood threats as rain continued to fall. The NWS issued the flash flood warning to Washington and the cities of Arlington and Alexandria in neighboring Virginia until 2:45 a.m. Tuesday. Hail as large as 11.5 centimeters in diameter was recorded in Virginia. By early Tuesday, nearly 600,000 customers were without power along the East Coast from Pennsylvania to Georgia. Welcome back, and moving on to business and finance. Global stocks kicked tower on Tuesday, and bond yields dropped, and investors assessed the latest weak economic data out of China and looked ahead to a key inflation reading from the US on Thursday. Meanwhile, Eurozone bank stocks fell sharply after Italy approved a 40% windfall tax on lenders of 2023, and Moody's cut the credit ratings of several small and mid-sized US lenders. MSCI's index of global stocks edged 0.23% lower after climbing 0.5% on Monday. MSCI Asia Index, which excludes Japan, fell 1.11%. European stocks indexes were lower, with the Pan-European Stock 600 down 0.25% and Germany's DAX falling 0.33%. Britain's FTSE 100 slipped 0.29% in early trading. Futures on US and S&P 500 were down 0.29% after the stock index climbed 0.9%. Monday, Nasdaq futures were 0.39% lower. US and European bond yields fell, reversing some of the increases seen over the last week. The US 10-year Treasury yield was down 7 basis points to 4.012% after touching the highest level since November on Friday at 4.206%, yields more inversely. The dollar picked up against its major trading partners as investors shifted towards safer assets and was last 0.29%. Banks were the biggest faller in Eurozone on Tuesday after Italy approved a 40% tax on lenders, and net interest margin, a measure of income derived from the gap between lending and deposit rates. Global investors are keenly awaiting Thursday U.S. inflation figures for July, which will be a key input in the Federal Reserve next interest rate decision in September. U.S. crude oil fell 0.87% to 81.24 a barrel on Tuesday. Brent crude was 0.86% lower at 84.60 per barrel. The US dollar turned higher on Tuesday after another disappointing set of Chinese trade figures hurt the yuan, the Aussie and Kiwi, while the yen also eased after Japanese real wages declined for a 15th straight month. The offshore yuan fell to 2.5 weeks low at 7.2334 per dollar, while its onshore counterpart similarly bottomed at a more than a week low of 7.223 per dollar. The Aussie weakened 0.7% to 0.6552, while the Kiwi slid 0.8%, its lowest level since June 29. The US dollar also firmed 0.4% against a weaker yen and standing at 143.25 yen. Data on Tuesday showed that Japanese real wages fell for a 15th straight month in June on relentless price hikes. Sterling edged 0.2% lower at $1.2757, while the euro was down 0.2%. The dollar index rose 0.3%, edging from Friday's one-week low in the wake of a mixed U.S. job report, which pointed to a cooling but still resilient labor market. Already running years behind, Boeing's first astronaut flight is now off until at least next March. Problems with the parachute lines and flammable tape surfaced during final reviews in late spring, ahead of what should have been a July launch for the Starliner capsules. Boeing said that it should be done removing the tape in the coming weeks, but a redesigned parachute system won't be ready until December. If a parachute drop test goes well late this year, company officials said the spacecraft should be ready to carry 2 NASA astronauts to the International Space Station as early as March. Starliner's first curfew will need to fit around other space station traffic, however, so it's too early to set even a tentative date, according to officials. To ensure there are no other problems, NASA and Boeing are conducting independent reviews. Boeing program manager Mark Nappy and technicians are almost halfway done peeling off flammable tape that was used to protect capsule wiring. Tape that cannot be removed from vulnerable spots will be covered with a protective coating. The original guidelines for usage of the tape were confusing, according to company and NASA officials, but they later determined it could not be used in some areas because it was flammable. The parachute issue will take longer to resolve. Part of the parachute line, known as soft links, did not meet safety standards, having gotten past improper testing years ago. A new, more robust design will be incorporated into upgraded parachutes already in works. Welcome back, and moving on to sports, co-host Australia welcomed Captain Sam Kerr to the fray of the first time in the tournament as they beat Denmark 2-0 to reach the quarterfinals of the Women's World Cup at Stadium Australia on Monday. Forward Kaiten Ford and Hayley Rasu scored goals either side of a halftime before Kerr, who has been absent with a calf injury, came as a 78th minute substitute for the biggest roar of the night from the crowd of 75,784. Australia, who have reached the last 8 at 3 previous World Cups but never gone further, move on to meet either France or Morocco in Brisbane on Saturday, with a place in the semi-finals on the line. And Eugene Le Sommer scored twice as France eased to 4-0 over Morocco at the World Cup on Tuesday and set up a quarter-final with co-host Australia. Morocco had upset the odds to qualify for the last 16, the expense of Germany in their debut appearance at the tournament, but they never managed to lay a glove on Hervé Renard's French side. Kadiludan opened the scoring on the quarter-hour mark, and it was 3-0 just after the midway point in the first half as Kenza Dali and Les Sommer added further goals. Veteran striker Les Sommer, who is France's all-time top scorer, netted again 20 minutes from the time before a crowd of 13.557 as Le Bleu advanced to the last 8 with a minimum of fuss. They will now play Australia in Brisbane in Saturday, with the winners of that going on to play either England or Colombia in the semi-finals. Well, dear viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of Nile TV Newsroom Live. I'm Niveen Ramzi signing off. Many thanks for watching.